What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to show you guys how we made this clock with a charred back or a Shoshugiban with these gold numbers. This video is sponsored by Bernzomatic, which is available at your local Home Depot. So the main focus of this video is the Shoshugiban, or charring the clock or making it black and burnt, and upon a Google research, cedar is supposedly the best wood for this. So we had some rough cut cedar laying around, so that's what we're going to use. The clock is going to be roughly 30 inches, so I cut everything a little bit long because we're going to be cutting a circle anyway, so I'd rather have a little extra than not enough. I just cut a square. You could probably line these up nice and even to reduce waste, but I'd rather just cut them big and just have a little excess. So cutting the sizes here isn't exactly crucial as long as they're bigger than 30 inches or whatever you want your clock to be. Our goal is 30 inches, so I cut everything to 32 inches. And I'm going to mill this lumber here. Since this is rough cut, I will have to run this through a joiner and planer, but if you go to Home Depot, they do have wood that is all pre-milled, so you can just essentially skip this entire step. But since some people may use rough cut lumber, I'm going to walk you through this process on how I got nice square boards. Then I'm going to start out by running everything through the joiner, just one side to get one square edge, and then once I get a square edge on all my pieces, I'm going to run these through the planer, and then I'll have two identical faces that are nice and square. And then after these are run through the planer and both sides are square, I'll then run them all through the joiner again, but on the edge, so I get a nice tight glue up. And here I'm just kind of playing with the layout and just checking all the joints to make sure everything's nice and square and that the glue up will be nice and tight. And then after that, we're going to throw these in the clamps, and then I'll just let this in the clamps overnight. And then again, if you don't have these tools or access to these tools, just simply buy the lumber pre-milled, and then you can just jump right to this step here where you're just kind of cutting everything to size and gluing it into the shape you want. So we make a ton of these clocks, and I have this fancy bandsaw jig to cut these circles, so I'm just simply marking the center here, but you by no means have to use this or buy this jig. A lot of people just use a router. Before I had this fancy bandsaw, I just simply used a jigsaw. So there's a lot of ways to cut a circle. Do what feels best to you and whatever feels safest for your shop and setup. But as you can see, this thing is super efficient, a couple little zips, and we have a perfect circle. But if I didn't have this, I'd probably just find a router jig or just make a router jig. And now Jess is just going to find that center that I marked earlier and just drill a hole straight through the clock. And again, you don't need this fancy drill jig deal, but it does help drill a straight hole. Before that, we just used a regular drill bit and drill. And now Jess is just cleaning this thing up and just, I mean, this is probably super irrelevant since we're burning it, but it just made us feel a little better, so she cleaned it up and rounded the edges. And now onto the fun part. Everyone likes burning stuff, that's just super exciting. So to do that, we're going to use this Bernzomatic kit that we got from our local Home Depot. Make sure you get the yellow tank, this just kind of saves a lot of time because it gets hotter. And as you can see, the torch head goes on nice and easy. It has a cast aluminum body, so it's nice and durable. And then it also has this quick ignite and extinguish button, so it just turns on super easy or goes out super easy. It also has a locking feature so you don't have to hold the button, which is super nice for what we're about to do. And another cool feature of this torch head is it has a pressure regulator so that you can burn it upside down for extended periods of time and it doesn't go out, which I've had issues with other burners in the past, so no need to worry about that. And speaking of not worrying, this thing also has a limited lifetime warranty, but that is also a huge bonus. So now we'll go a little bit into the technique and what we found worked best for us. So we just started going to town, just burning this thing as much as we could to try to get the look we were going for. We've never done this before, so we really didn't know what to expect. We actually also tried a blue tank just to see how it compared to the yellow tank, and the yellow tank is by far faster. So if you're going to do something like this, get the yellow tank. And then after the first round of burning and a little experimenting, we wire brushed it and then quickly realized this was not the look we were going for. So then we just flipped it over and started charring the other side to make it nice and even. Because one thing to note when you're burning the wood like this, it warps the wood as you're sucking that heat or sucking that moisture out of one side so rapidly and heating it up, it'll actually start cupping it. So you kind of want to burn it equally on both sides just to kind of minimize that cupping as much as you possibly can. I'll actually include a hyperlapse right now just to kind of show you how much this actually moves the wood. It's quite eye-opening when you see it in like a sped up time frame, so just watch the edges and just see how much it moves and fluctuates as she's burning it. So that's just something to be aware of. If I were to do it again, I would have paid more attention to that. I guess I didn't realize how much it fluctuated until I was actually editing the video and saw the clock after we burned it. So after reburning the side that we scraped off to get the charred look we were going for, I waited for the clock to completely cool down, and then I sprayed a couple coats of water-based poly on there just to kind of seal in that burnt charred look so none of it kind of flaked off as we were handling it. So since the clock did have such a prominent cup, I cut some runners for the back just to kind of take that cup out and kind of put it back to flat and square one, since it'll be hard to glue the numbers on if it's got that drastic cup to it. And then I made these runners out of some scrap ash that I had laying around, and then I just kind of marked the same curvature of the clock just to make them a little less visible when the clock's hung on the wall. And then I simply went over to the bandsaw and followed that line. You could also use a jigsaw for this if you don't have a bandsaw. And then I just took these back outside with the same torch head and burned these so they matched the entire clock. This is ash, we use cedar for the actual clock, so you could probably get away with most different species of wood, so you don't have to use cedar, but I don't think you'll get as well of a charred look with other wood types. I then used another piece of scrap to attach the D-hook later. So before attaching the runners to flatten out this clock, we're going to add a hole for the mechanism. We do offer these mechanisms on our website. You can find them all kinds of places. I used a Forstner bit to remove a bulk of the material, and then I just used this router jig I made a long time ago to hog out the rest of the material with a router. And then now we're going to attach the back runners, and then find center as best you can to attach the runners. I'll attach the center plate first. This is where the D-hook will be attached. Make sure you pre-drill all your holes so you don't get any splitting or anything. It'll also give the screws a little room to move when the clock expands and contracts. And as you can see, just screwing these in took out that bow quite a bit. If you're unable to push this flat with your hands, I would use a clamp for when you're screwing in the screw so you don't strip any screws. You want it nice and tight against the surface as you're screwing in the screw. And as you can see, it's definitely not perfect, but it's way better than it was. This is plenty flat for the clock, as it's going to be on the wall, and once the numbers are on there, you'll never know. And then I went ahead and sprayed the water-based poly on here. A few more coats on each side. I think I ended up doing 5 coats on the top and probably 4 coats on the back. Now we have the luxury of having a CNC, so if you have a CNC, these files will be available online so you can cut your own numbers, or you can just go to Home Depot. They have all kinds of stuff there. You can even use like mailbox numbers or house numbers. Them look really cool. They might cost you a little more, but I think the brass house numbers would look great. So now Jess is just marking the center, and she's gonna attach the D-hook. Also in the description we'll tag a lot of these items that are available at Home Depot, so you can go pick those up yourself. So Jess also does this a lot, so she did make this jig. We will offer that on our website as well if that's something you're interested in. You by no means need it, it just makes it a little bit easier to line them up. We've done tons of clocks without it, so it's not needed at all. To attach the numbers, we simply just use super glue or CA glue, and this is way stronger than you'd think. Once these numbers are on there, they do not come off. We've tried, and if you put a number in the wrong place, it's not going to be fun taking it off. And Jess decided she wanted to use modern Roman numerals for this one, but by all means use regular numbers or whatever you want. It's your design, make it exactly how you want. Then just as you can see, she just applies a little bit of super glue, lines it up the best she can, and then applies a little pressure until it's on there. So just take your time and work your way around the clock. And another note, it might be easier just to buy these home numbers from Home Depot, as I mentioned earlier. Some of these have holes in them, so you could just simply screw them on or tack them on. These are even self-adhesive, so there's just a lot of options on there. Just go check it out at your local Home Depot and see what they all have. And for brass numbers, if you look here, they have a ton of options. So if you don't want to glue these on or have access to a CNC, there's endless possibilities. Also reach out, we might be able to help you out with the numbers. And Jess does several of these a week, so she is quite fast at it. This probably took her 45 minutes to an hour. And then once this all dried and cured, I went ahead and put one final coat on the clock just to make a nice even sheen. And that is it, your clock is pretty much done. And then the final piece to the puzzle is attach your mechanism. These ones just simply screw on, it's super easy to attach. And then just attach your hands. The hands are pretty thin, as they have to be for the clock to keep time. So just you might have to bend them a little bit to get them to line up, but that is it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, guys. If you have any questions, just comment down below and we'll do our best to help you out. And then a huge thanks to Bernzomatic and Home Depot for sponsoring this video. We really hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you all have a wonderful day.